So here it is, the brand new GTA 5 enhanced update for PC. Let's go over everything Rockstar promised and see how it actually holds up in reality. The graphics improvements are noticeable, but they're far from game-changing. Rockstar didn't touch any textures or models, which wasn't surprising since they never promised that, but still, I was kinda hoping they'd sneak in at least some upscaled world textures to freshen things up. The first major change I noticed was the ray-traced reflections, especially on cars and building windows. They stand out the most during the Franklin and Lamar mission, right when we steal the sports cars. They look decent, but if you're expecting a massive visual upgrade, you might be disappointed. I think the biggest issue is that the reflections aren't sharp enough. If this effect was limited to older, worn-down vehicles, it would make sense, but when even brand new sports cars have blurry reflections, it feels like there was missed potential here. And speaking of reflections, the mud puddles are still as awful as ever. Pixelated messes with low-res reflections that don't hold up at all in 2024. And the issues don't stop there. First off, not every building that should have reflections actually has them. There are still plenty of windows using the old fake reflection system, or in some cases, no reflections at all. I don't know if this was just an oversight or if adding too many reflective surfaces would have tanked performance, but either way, it's inconsistent. Then there's the Z-fighting issue in water reflections. From what I've seen, this seems to be caused by Rockstar replacing planar water reflections with a low LOD cube map version. It's clearly visible when you look at the water. The reflections don't match the actual game world. Instead, you're seeing lower quality LOD models reflected in the water, which just looks off. And next up, vehicle mirror reflections, or rather, the lack of them. Just as I expected, they don't work, just like on PS5. Most likely, Rockstar didn't want to spend time modifying every vehicle model to make the mirrors reflect properly. So, yeah, reflections are improved, but there are still a lot of limitations and issues. Hopefully, Rockstar fixes some of these problems, but as of now, it's not quite the upgrade it could have been. The ray-traced ambient occlusion is here, but honestly, only the trained eye will notice it. Whether you're indoors or outside, the differences are pretty subtle, and it really takes a side-by-side comparison to spot them. That said, the most noticeable upgrade actually comes from ray-traced global illumination. You can see how objects now reflect light in a much more realistic way, making the overall lighting feel more natural. It reminds me of Pascal's RTGI reshade effect, which simulated a similar effect, and it's nice to have it natively in the game now. The combination of ambient occlusion and global illumination definitely improves the lighting, especially in areas with shadows and indirect lighting. But is it a game changer? Not really. It's an improvement, but not something that drastically transforms the game's visuals. DLSS works as expected, and after my last video, I noticed that this type of anti-aliasing has just as many fans as it does haters. But for me, it's hands down the best option right now to balance visuals and performance. MSAA might offer better quality, but the performance hit is just too brutal to justify using it. So far, I've played for over an hour, and DLSS has been smooth almost the entire time. The only issue I ran into was at the end of one cutscene, where it seemed to stop working for a split second, making the jagged edges really noticeable. Other than that, no complaints. It's doing its job well. The promised faster loading times don't seem to be working as expected. Early tests show that the game loads in roughly the same time as the pre-upgrade legacy version, so if there's an improvement, it's barely noticeable. And honestly, it feels like a marketing bullet point more than an actual upgrade. That said, I might be wrong. Maybe more in-depth tests will prove that there's at least some difference, but for now, it seems like Rockstar overpromised on this one. The so-called enhanced support for higher frame rates also seems like complete nonsense. As of now, the game is capped at 120 FPS, which is exactly the same as before. No changes, no improvements, nothing. Maybe Rockstar forgot to update something, and this will get fixed in a future patch. But for now, there's zero difference compared to the legacy version. If you were hoping to push 5 beyond 120 frames, you're out of luck, at least for now. To be honest, visually, there isn't a massive difference between the enhanced and legacy versions of GTA 5. The improvements are nice in some areas, but they're far from groundbreaking. And on top of that, if you're upgrading to the enhanced version, you can forget about modding for a while. Open4 currently can't even open the new version's files, even though the format appears to be the same. Figuring out how to decode and edit these files could take some time, meaning that for now, mods like Natural Vision or Chromatics won't work at all. So until modders find a workaround, this update is basically a trade-off. Slightly better graphics, but no mods. I tried to cover all the key first impressions and important details about this update, and for now, that's all we've got. Of course, I'll keep you updated on any patches, fixes, or the first mods that become compatible, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay in the loop.